welcome to another FACEHAMMER show. It's been a while, but we're here to talk about the Warhammer World Team event, and Byron's going to tell us why he loves NURGLE.
Yeah, I think I probably will.
Well, I've got photographic evidence of you hugging and licking and NURGLing. So,
well, I guess maybe that's all we need. But yeah, it was a really interesting change of pace for me, having never played with the Resilient army in my life.
No,
yeah,
because you're used to playing like Sinesh and mixed order elves and stuff. So nothing.
Yeah, and before that, like MSU demons in 8th edition is probably the most resilient thing I ran. But even then, it was like double Seeker Chariot, weird like 16 drop build. So
yeah,
wasn't particularly big. Yeah, I've never played a Resilient army before. Turns out they're quite good.
You certainly get to feel like you play more of a game when it starts going wrong. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, when I've made it go wrong, I don't really feel like I deserve that. So that took a little bit of getting over.
That's fine.
I didn't get over it.
just channel your inner Gargant player. It's okay.
I face them. More on that later.
Yeah.
Something's more forgiving than my army.
Yeah. Sure. So we just got back from Warhammer World Teams from the weekend. Byron and I were in the team GHOSTHAMMER Tribe with Pete and Alex Jones.
Yeah, a great time.
And we had a splendid time. So we thought we'd just talk about our games and what happened. So, and yeah, thought it'd be quite cool. So there's us outside Costa on Sunday morning, looking dazzled in sunlight, ready.
Yeah, it was a nice weekend.
It was.
Even
it was
if
good.
Warhammer World don't let you sit outside after a certain time, which is a bit of a shame.
No, exactly.
Keep those nerds inside. They don't want vitamin D.
No, because we're all pasty and scared of the sun, as you can see from the photo. Good weekend all round. So I took Idoneth deepkin. So I painted my army for Hampshire GT, and I played there. Did okay. And you know, I haven't done a video on that yet, but I probably will. And I got my army finished. There's a picture from Hampshire GT where I got nominated, but that's my...
You took exactly the same list, right?
Exactly the same, except for one artifact. So the and grand strategy, because teams we're not allowed to duplicate. But yeah, I got my army painted in like 2 and a bit weeks, which I was really happy with. And you basically...
It's your best looking speed army to date, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really happy with it.
I don't know what word to use, yeah.
Probably like, I don't know, just good color choices and effective use of basing elements and some nice contrasty colors. Basically mostly contrast paint and some scale paints for the blues and turquoises, because like Caribbean blue and Holdra blue and Despair green was my kind of like go-to color. But yeah, very happy with the outcome. So I've just got to go over it and upscale some bits. I'm going to add some new bits as well, because I need to change my list, I think. So, but more on that later. Let's just bet the aspect of the sea is going to get in the sea, I think. It's probably the way I'd describe it, because he's just been a complete letdown. But hey ho, that's just what he does. So I think we just talk about our lists. So for people who've watched the Idoneth show, when I talked about the list I was going to paint and take. It's essentially that list. So it's more fan, which allows me to bring back D3+3 thralls or reavers when I use this Lore Light ability from the Soul Render, who's my general. He's got the Teachings of Terskoli, which allows me to just flip the tides, which I just think is so good. Especially in the current meta of super aggro in your face fun times. The Achillean Thrall Master, who gives me buffs to my thralls, then an Eidolon aspect to the sea, which we'll talk about later. He's got the Steed of Tides for teleporting and the Kraken Tooth for... I was taking the Biovectric Blast or Shell, where you can make a hero go last, and in retrospect I probably should have kept that on him. Okay. But I thought the amount of times I teleport and shoot something like a hero and I do a couple wounds, and if I had a chance to do an extra D3 mortals, maybe I'd kill it. Or I just roll 1 every time I use it and hurt myself for 9 wounds over the weekend.
You think is it let's do decision-based analysis rather than results-based analysis. Do you genuinely think it's just not worth it, or
it's too random? Like the problem with the aspect of the sea is too random. Like his shots are random on his shooting attack.
I mean, they're too variable.
Yeah, well, you either get 1 or 3, and they're freeze and freeze. So if you get 3 shots, they're freeze to hit, so you're gonna get 2. Then they're freeze again, which 1 maybe 2. Then they're rend 2 damage 2, which is okay, but it's only D3 shots. If you just had a flat 3 shots, you'd actually be like, oh, it's fairly good.
Okay.
And then you've got 2d6 attacks off fish, so that's random. He's got 3 attacks on his spear thing, which is like, again, freeze, red 2 damage 2, which is fine. But then
if you had 4, wouldn't it?
And then he's got 2 attacks off his scepter, but they're freeze 4s with no rend. So it's like, or rend 1. It's like, meh. So he just doesn't do anything in combat.
It's difficult because you can't bank on him. You know,
no.
Like he's not Kragnos. Few things are Kragnos, but you know,
he's not. To be honest, he's not even the Thrall Master. That's like
I need something to go over there, shoot that, do some wounds, do some other wounds, get in there and make it dead for a grand.
He should be able to kill like a 5 wound hero, or I found I was getting to the point where I was going, I'm popping best day ever, I'm turning him into a monster so I get a rampage, I could stomp on something.
Did you end up using bolt from him at all? Because I guess that's
occasionally, yeah. If I didn't miscast or not cast it, which seemed to be my theme of the weekend, is not casting spells, even with rerolls, or being unbound. Very, in most of my games, to be honest, I've very rarely got a spell off. I don't know why, but my opponents just seem to be able to roll 11s and 10s, and I just seem to be able to roll 5s and 6s. I get a couple spells off. There was one key turn which was useful, but anyway, he's been a hit and miss. I think the problem is you can't rely on him to either works or he doesn't work, and
you can't plan a strategy.
You can't play around that. No. So and I don't think the bravery 10's that useful when you've got little MSU units, and he's unbinds good, but then you're not always in range, so it doesn't normally matter. So
he's got 2 casts, right?
Yeah,
like whereas Pappy, so I was playing with the Great Unclean One, and he had the reroll. He also had the option of a Epidemius reroll, which is much more than twice as good. Wait, I'll talk about that in a bit. But he can stab himself an extra spell, and 3 is a really, really big difference.
But you didn't take that, did you? You took the flail, right?
You
have to take the bile blade if you want to do that.
Yeah. It was listed wrong.
Oh, okay. So you didn't take the bile blade.
Yeah. He's always tapping himself with a blade in the belt.
Yeah. So then I have 2 units of 10 Thralls, 10 Reavers, 2 Alapexes, 1 Alapex, a Leviathan with reverberating carapace that gives me the 15-inch bubble rather than 12, which, because I've got 2 units of Thralls and I'm trying to be a bit more board presence, is a lot more useful. Particularly
with that in retrospect. That's the right choice, you think?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is
close, aren't they?
When someone attacks the Leviathan, they generally kill it. Like, they just go to kill it. Now, ignoring the rend 1 would probably make quite a big difference.
Yeah.
It also makes a difference against a shooting army where you can put your Leviathan forward and just, you have to shoot it. And you're just where he's on a 2-up save, ignoring rend 1, so good luck.
Particularly different if you had live swarm available, I guess, because then you could.
Yeah, I mean, the aspect of the sea can heal it, but he's generally not near it because he's teleported off somewhere to do something cool and failed. I think maybe I just need to keep the aspect of the sea in the army, and I'd be better off with a spell that did something other than teleport, because I just don't think the teleports.
You think it encourages
me to try and teleport him around the board to do cool stuff, and he never does it. So
encourages
because he's just not good enough,
not getting a reward.
And he's just not. I don't think he's good enough. I mean, it's quite useful because you can do stuff like turn him into a monster and teleport him into their territory, and then
he doesn't have to kill anything.
Run the turtle in, and you've just got an objective with a bonus point. Or you can actually teleport the Soul Render, who's an Ishran hero, and if he's on their objective, you can score a battle tactic that way. That's quite an easy one. So he does add a bit, but it's too hit and miss for me. But anyway, so that was my list. Battle Regiment. It's only 92 wounds. It's super fragile. but it's got a lot of range threat with the Achillean Anapexes and the Leviathan. The Reavers are great. I had to take the ground strategy Creeping Gloomtide, which basically means that your opponent has to be within 3 of your boat. And actually, like, I think I achieved it in 4 out of the 5 missions, even when I lost 3 games. I think the only reason I didn't do it in the last mission is because my opponent actually asked me what it was and did actually went out their way to stand the prime on it. But then that meant the prime wasn't doing anything, which was good as well, you know.
You've had 300 something points of damage over there. That's fine.
I mean, he'd already killed half my army, so he'd done enough. But you know, it's a bloody thing. So no, he double turned me, and I had 3 units near each other. So killed my shark unit, killed my Leviathan, and killed my thralls, basically. So it was pretty beasty. And you took NURGLE, didn't you?
I did, yes. So as we've already covered, there's incorrect weapon option on Pappy, but I had him as my general, Master of Magic, which is great combined with his ability to stab himself for an extra spell, and the fact that Epidemius can let you reroll spells. So the thing that I found with that is that if you fail one early that's like good but not your most important one, you're like, oh, you know, screw it, I'll reroll it. Because if you fail your next one, or if you want to get it on a higher value that I did a couple of times, you have the option to use one of Epidemius's rerolls for that. So he was pretty tasty. Fleshy Abundance, just insane. Like,
it's just the auto pick spell on the Great and Clean one, isn't it? If you're running Plague Bearers, it's just like
really, really, you know, it's just amazing. Epidemius, who I'm on the fence with, like, he lets you tank some ungodly stuff. How he works is you roll like 3 dice for Great and Clean one, 2 for Tree, and then 1 for each other NURGLE unit in your army every hero phase. And for each 5+, you get a reroll that you can use on a ward or a cast or a dispel to 7. Cats at 7. So generally speaking, I should get to 6 or 7 in the first round. I didn't always. Sometimes I got 2 or 3, but that's fine. You know,
especially with befouling, because you've got an extra tree as well, haven't you? So
right, yeah, he tanked it right up. Like, I should get 6.5.
You shouldn't really burn all 6 on turn 1 anyway, so we don't need them till turn 2.
No, quite a lot. They disappear, you know, turn 3 or 4. And just sitting on 2 just gives you this, like those Tzeentch players, lol. It just gives you this feeling of safety. Really, really nice, actually. Then I had a Lord of Afflictions with the Split Horn Helm that gives him a 4+, giving me the option for a 4+ rerollable ward on him. I thought that would be a lot better than it was. But I think probably the Lord of Afflictions and the drones are the things that I didn't use the best in the list. 20 Plague Bearers, absolutely insane. Anyone who at any point was saying Plague Bearers are poo is an idiot. Like, they are so good.
They are fantastic. They can take so much. They really can.
Like, what do you want from your units? You're in NURGLE. Like, obviously they don't need to kill everything. Like, they are one of the tankiest things in the games. They're amazing battle line. I don't know if I think I lost them in 1 game where I got my entire army just got, you know, like turbo tabled.
They have to like really dedicate an awful lot to get rid of them.
Completely. I think maybe I lost them in the game where I got tabled, and like round 5 maybe in another game. They are so good. Mystic Shield on them if I don't need to protect Pappy, and you know, from the Scrivener you've got +1 save. And most importantly, your first summon every single time. I had the Scrivener. Yeah, Sloppity comes down turn 1. I think there's a debate about whether you would take Sloppity or the Scrivener if you had the choice. If you're playing an aggro army with a couple of threats, it's nice to be able to remove them and stop someone from piling in. But it works out.
The reason I like the Sloppity in the summoning pool, I mean, he's 10 points more, so you would have to change your list somewhat.
Exactly, yeah.
Is that what I like about him is you can, if you're using your drones aggressively, he can drop behind them and then give you all the exploding wounds, and drones with those exploding wounds is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it's your main damage source in the army outside of the Great Unclean one.
Yeah, and then you can like pile in and tag units, and then you basically, you know, then you just go where you can't pile in, basically. So.
Yeah, I we'll touch on luck in a bit, but I didn't have a great deal of luck with making charges. Three beasts, they're fantastic, they're awesome. They were always more resilient than people thought. They always lasted longer than people thought, and I could have played them better with being within range or not of the no pile in things. Particularly when I faced Ironjaw's Kragnos, I made a key mistake there in turn one that definitely ended up costing me a bit. And two units of 3 plague drones. They were great, but I kind of felt like my 610 points of Lord of Afflictions, who did have an item on him as well, so I was taking an item up, and the plague drones, maybe they were the things that I used the worst over the weekend. I just there's definitely some more practice needed for me to get the most out of those. This was great though, incredibly forgiving, like really forgiving. I was making smaller mistakes, and sometimes you just don't even get punished for them whatsoever. The Great Unclean one tanks so well, and with epidemias, it's just a joke. Like, it really is pretty obscene. If you're lucky enough to have the turn where your wards get better, like,
I found that the Great Unclean was basically the linchpin of the army. He's the thing that does all the damage, and he's got your magic, and he's like he can actually like go out and kill stuff, but also with the stave where he goes, stuff just dies once you've got the disease ticked on.
It's absolutely magic. I think there's definitely other lists, maybe even using 2 Great Unclean ones, that could be quite cool, where you lean into that stuff more heavily. Surprisingly, in 2 games, I got to a point where I had that option to summon a second Great Unclean one. I just didn't think that had happened.
Yeah, especially with Befouling, because you get the extra tree, it ticks up a bit. I mean, you don't have Nurglings for the scout, but you can kind of get in the territory with the drop from the sky anyway if you want. So
exactly, yeah. So really did. If people aggro towards me and they weren't in their territory, which happened against Kragnos Sons of Behemat a bit, I summoned a Great Unclean one turn 5, and it was big.
One of the things that I struggled with when I played with it is some games, like, it's really easy to do this when you've got like a no man's land and your territory's like just that strip across the back, is to not leave one of your units wholly within your territory, because you don't get any points.
Yeah.
So like having something like a beast to sit there is perfect.
Because one of the little war bands or something, you could just separate. I don't know. There might be a cheapy option.
Well, just a hero, really. If you've got a cheap hero, it doesn't need to be near, because
what's the wording on it? Does it have to be a maggotkin?
Wholly within your territory, yeah. So you have to have a unit wholly within your territory to get it. So sometimes you move up on the board and you just realize that you're not wholly within your own territory because you've moved up the board, and actually you're like, oh shit, I shouldn't have moved that far forward. And
I didn't have that problem at all, because every army I faced was coming
in your face. Yeah. And you're low drop, so they probably go in like,
I was stepping back because
you didn't want to get doubled, and then like, I did see quite a lot of your games you were kind of penned into your deployment zone, which isn't that big a deal for you. I mean, obviously it's nice to get board position, but
patient army, isn't it? You end up winning your games turn 3 and upwards often, which definitely was the case. I ended up with some really, really close ones. That makes it fun, actually, feeling like you're always in it. And unless you make a mistake with the casualty removal for no pile-ins, like that's the biggest thing that you get punished for. Like, you really, really do. So if you checking your opponent's threats ranges on their weapons is the first thing you should do any game. And you should be aware of that and play around that for sure.
Yeah, and but that was your kind of first foray into the Nurgle. So I don't know if we'll go through like games super in depth. Maybe it's like go through and key learning points. But it's a 5-round team event. So the way it works is that you pair what you're going to play. So obviously Alex was using his Ironjaws, and Pete was using Stormcast, and me and Idoneth and yourself on Nurgle. So you'd normally like try and nominate an army, and then they nominate an army, then you blind flip them over, and you put 2 opponents to face each. And then, so they're the one that they put forward, we put 2 against, and whoever they pick plays that. The one they don't pick goes and plays the one they kept in their hand. So that's how it works. So you do some pairing. And I think the pairings went pretty well overall.
Quite well on average, I think.
I
generally
made a bit of a cock up in one of the rounds, but that was my fault, really. So I'll just go through, like, quickly what I played. So, like, in round 1, we were playing one of the studio teams.
They were lovely,
and they were really
nice opponents.
Really nice guys. And I played Damien, who had his Idoneth, and he said he hadn't played much of his army, so that was interesting to play the mirror. And really, the key factor in this game was that I had the ability to have high tide in turn 2, because it meant I could be super aggressive, and he couldn't charge me, basically. Also, because I was a 1-drop, I had the chance to double him, which was a good job, because my first turn was one of the worst turns I've had with my army. So he was running.
This one, wasn't it?
Oh, honestly, I rolled 3 double 1 charges on the first turn. So there was a Leviathan, an aspect to the Storm, 3 Achillean Guard, 10 Thralls. Then he had 10 Reavers, 10 Reavers, a Soul Squire, a Shark, and a Shark. Now, I gave him first. Now, I didn't take the Ritual, which was the 12-inch range in shooting, because although he's got a lot, I'm thinking, you've got to shoot the closest thing. My Thralls are resilient, because I always deploy them wholly within 6 of the boat. So if you can see from this picture, I've got the boat with my 10 Reavers in. This is garrisonable, this big one in the middle. Reavers on, so he can't go. He could land the other side, but is very unlikely to get there. 10 Thralls, and I'm thinking, well, he's got to shoot the Thralls, Sharks and Turtle at the back. So if he shoots the Thralls, I can regenerate them. They've got a 5-up ward. They've got +1 cover, because my Turtle's got a 15-inch +1 save. And I mean, so I'm not in cover because I'm playing the retreat charge or shoot one. Then it's high tide. So he put his Soul Squire, Reavers, and Shark on the side, which I thought he would, because he couldn't really go the other side and hit anything of useful, because the Turtle was there. And so he thought, I'll go in there, kill them, try and get that Shark, which the 2 Shark unit, which is kind of what I wanted him to do. So he put his unit on the side, his Reavers, his Soul Squire, and his Shark, shot me, didn't really do enough with my save and everything, all out defense, that kind of thing. And then essentially what happened is you have to excuse the order of these photos, they're a bit all over the place. So I moved up, and I moved the 2 Sharks across, tried to like shoot off his other Shark, moved the single Shark, teleported the aspect to the sea to get into the Reavers. So what I wanted to do was kill the 2 units of Reavers and the 2 Sharks, because that's most his damage output range. My first turn, I just had a really bad turn, didn't really shoot much off, didn't get charges, and I was like, okay, but I got the double. And then that was basically game, because I charged the Thralls into his Reaver blob with his character and just killed it all. The Sharks charged in, just went in.
Army.
Yeah, and I managed to get like a Reaver blob into his Eidolon and his Reavers and his Ishlam with the Turtle. And the Turtle, between the Turtle and the Thralls, I killed most of his Thralls and his Ishlan Guard, and left the aspect to the Storm alone, because I thought, well, he's not going to do an awful lot of damage. And then in his turn, all he had left was 2 Thralls, the aspect to the Storm, and the Turtle.
Yeah.
And he charged my Turtle with both his aspect to the Storm and the Turtle, but it was like, it's high tide, so I just killed them.
It's kind of like you're playing the silly I can see the priority roll, plays the darkness list with that turn thing.
Yeah,
isn't it? You just feel safe, like, and you're like, you get like a slightly diluted version of that, but it's powerful.
Yeah, exactly. And I
can do what I want and you can't. Let's go.
Well, it kind of forces him, because I took the shooting out early. He didn't have a game to like not fight me and shoot me. He had to fight me, and if you've got to fight me and I'm going before you and you're fragile, deepkin are fragile.
It's all on your terms, isn't it?
So because he charged his Leviathan into my Leviathan, I got to strike first, and I managed to pop 2 6s on the bite and just 12 mortal wounds. So
This is exactly what it doesn't want to be hit by.
No,
Right.
it doesn't like that.
Amazing armor save. No
luckily, 3 fins went through, so that was 12 damage as well. So I think I did 26 wounds to his Leviathan when he charged me, which was pretty good. Titanic jeweled him and just just went for it. And
of course, you can pick aggressive, monstrous reaction things rather than defensive, because your best defense is for the thing to be dead.
Yeah, and then with the soul render just regenerating the full unit that was fighting his Eidolon, everything he killed just come back. So he just couldn't chip away at them. And it was
shooting.
Pretty well. That's kind of the way I play the army. So I want that resilience, regeneration, undead style. So that was game 1 for me. Like, and that was a big win to me. Which is good to play the mirror, but I think my list is much better in the mirror than his is. So
I asked at the start of the event if I could be given Civil Wars, because then I get twice the opportunity to learn about NURGLE. But I don't think, did any of our opponents have NURGLE?
What, in their army?
Yeah.
I think so. I can't remember.
I think maybe they didn't, or one did. Anyway, we didn't face much NURGLE.
There was quite a lot there, but maybe you're right. Maybe we didn't face a lot of it.
Yeah, I just think not in the list we were facing. So I played James Cart with kind of it was just 2 dragons, and then it was annihilators, quite a lot of them, which are fairly scary for my army, because he's got the potential to land do mortals that I don't particularly like. I've still got my ward, but I'm not a massive fan of them, especially when I've got several beasts kicking about and some cheat characters that are important and stuff like that. And then he can, like, his potential to shock and awe me is pretty high. It was the deployment when you're kind of corner based, each of us.
Yeah.
I think he gave me first, and I basically did nothing. I did some spells and shuffled. It was like a 5-minute turn or whatever. Repositioned a little bit. I gave him the ability to drop behind me, because my thinking was that if he dropped behind me and he didn't pummel me to death, which felt a bit risky, but the army's resilient, then he's here, my army's here, what's left of it, and the objectives are here.
Yeah.
So, my army was a barrier.
You almost like force him a wall. So you basically expose your bum and go, come behind me, but then you've blocked him off from all the points. So
yeah, completely that. So he did that. He landed there, but then he failed charges. I failed some stuff as well. We both had quite a lot failing going on, but him not getting that move into me with as much stuff as he could was just wonderful. So he got in with this 6 block with the hammers. They hit pretty hard. But a couple of other things went my way. I had 2 dragons shoot badly a beast, charge a beast, and it survive on 2 wounds. Beast life. They are really good for spiking. That's the other thing with a resilient army. Like, your potential how to put this? There's more places for stuff to go in your favor and for it to have an effect. You could just make a load of 5-up wards. It feels bent when it happens. So he went into the beast, left it alive on 2 wounds. His dragons pinned their money, like, absolutely amazing. And from there, really, it was just a matter of me kind of, stopping him from piling in with Sloppity, doing my thing. And the only real risk was that because he'd kind of come quite close to me, I was fairly restricted where I could summon 2. But you've got 6s on runs and stuff like that, and my guys aren't really there to hit stuff. He ended up bringing back some of his annihilators too, which feels grim because they hit so hard.
Oh, it's so annoying when they do that. Like, I'm playing like Breakspear, and he had 10 protectors, and he brought like 7 back in 2 turns, and I was just like, all of the effort to get rid of them.
Yeah, I think he might have been one of the people to kill my Great Unclean One eventually, but it was it was something I knew was coming and was fine with, because I was trying to be around the objectives. So it was a really good game, but him failing charges went in my favor. I think if anyone is playing a army that does its stuff in melee, if you're taking the wounds triumph, you're an idiot. Like, it's just, you can't do what you need to do if you're not in combat. And those turns where one thing fails and you use a reroll and it fails, and then you've got no more rerolls left, they feel grim, my last game will kind of come to how grim it can feel for an opponent. So I basically won a game without having to do anything. Ironically, after we discussed his triumph at the beginning of the game, and me saying like, "Have you considered this one?" and then exactly what I was talking about happened, and it felt awful.
I mean, I think it's on those ones. I do like the wound triumph because there's a lot of armies that you can almost guarantee charges because you've got like 2d6 reroll ones or +1 and stuff like that.
Or
so you, So for me, like, I took the wound triumph on my list because I could use it when I shot as well.
Yeah.
But if you use it on the thralls when they get into combat, it's just obscene.
Yeah.
So you could basically make them 2s reroll 1s and then 2s.
Yeah.
So, or you can do 2s exploding 6s and 2s, which is what I normally do.
Definitely different because you got the option to pop it on a turtle shooting one round and definitely kill something from range. That's
the good thing because you go all out attack and the triumph it's 2s and 2s.
Yeah.
Rend 1 damage D3. So you can, and it's 24-inch range. So you can even use it on the sharks because like the sharks are the same shooting profile as the turtle.
Yeah.
But the good thing about the turtle is you go, pick the battle tactic, destroy battle line, and then you go shoot that battle line 2s and 2s. And
with
normally,
your list as well, you could have shot it with 2 sharks first just to make it doubly sure. And then...
One of my favorite things to do is to shoot the single shark and split fire. So you put 2 shots into one thing, 2 shots into the other, and you just and see which all-out defense they put on. And if they don't, then you split fire the other 2 sharks. You put 4 into one, 4 into the other, and then eventually they kind of feel pressured into making a decision. They all out defense, and you can dummy people as well. So like you can teleport the aspect to the sea within 12 of a target, like a hero. Shoot him first into that hero, but in your movement phase, you measure the 24-inch range from all your stuff to that hero.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying, I'm in range there, right? That's in range. So they're all in range of that hero. Then you shoot the aspect to the city first. They go all out defense. Then you just shoot everything else into the other thing you actually wanted to kill. So I just love the fact that your opponent has to make a decision, and the longer they take, the longer they wait, the more damage you do. So it's exactly, and you could just not shoot it again. So
it's like dumbing out a
It's like poker face. It's good. I that's kind of how I even when I shoot the turtle, sometimes I split 2 on that, 2 on that, 2 on that, 2 on that, because it's like I don't want to I want them to commit somewhere.
Have that with battle tactics as well. In your head, you're going to kill their general and picking that battle line so they don't defensively best they ever.
You intensively fail your battle tactic. So you go, right, I did this in one of my games. You go, right, I'm going to kill battle line, that thing. You did it to Hampshire. You target it with, the 1 shark with 4 shots. They immediately all out defense. And then you just shoot everything else into the key target and kill it. Yeah. And you're like, well, that's actually what I wanted to do. But it does give you do fail a battle tactic, but
sometimes you don't, which is a lovely thing, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
And you just then the thing that you did want to, you get your battle tactic, and the thing you did want to kill have 1 less armor save. That's a big deal on a lot of things. Could be Kragnos, helps.
Yeah, but anyway, bit of a tangent. But you do you manage to win that game?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, a good start. Definitely, it wasn't blowing the cobwebs off. It was learning how to play the army. So it's quite a forgiving one to learn because you're not assertive. You don't go there and do this perfectly and target that, and you just kind of castle up, wait, and then kind of figure out your plan in your opponent's turn. Quite a relaxing army to play with, I think. It's not like it's soft brain, but it's not intense, I would say.
Yeah, just you just got that sustain, haven't you? That you
bumble about.
You can be a bit bumbly and then be like, that's fine. Especially with the beast because they retreat and charge. So they don't really get pins. So
great. It's the beast spam list is a bit good.
Yeah, but they're awful. Remember.
toenaggling.
Remember we got those comments. Piece of rubbish. Why would you take those? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so round 2 we played another team. Forgive us that we don't have all the information. It's on BCP, and I don't have access to the app because we need captains, and it's just a horrible app to try and do stuff post event from. But I haven't got any pictures. But I played a Cruel Boys army, Big Yellows. But he had a lot of combat. But essentially, it was a pretty one-sided affair because.
Was this team monster zombies? Will Hodgson, Chris Swift, Elliot Peters, and
yes,
James Crockley. Cool. That's who he played.
So he had 2 Sludge Raker beasts and like 2 big unit of 20 Gut Rippers, 2 10s, 2 units of 10 Hobgrots, 3 Belt Boys, 2 Killer Bows, Shaman, and basically just binballed forward. But he couldn't shoot anything but my thralls with like the bows and everything. And I was like, well,
that's such a good match.
You can shoot
you asked
those.
For this matchup, didn't you? You were like,
I said, if you give me that match, I'm gonna muller it. And we basically engineered it by keeping me in the hand and refusing him into me. And basically, just high tide turn 2. He goes first. He bimbles to the middle. I move forward. I shoot. He wins the turn. He charges me and he gets killed, or I win the turn, I charge him and I kill everything, and then he's pinned with go first, which is what happened. So I got the double and just completely blew his army apart. I charged everything in my army, everything, even my heroes charged. The Viadon, like, then I killed the screen. He piled in round. He then killed the Sludge Raker beast with 6 mortal wounds, and his attacks just killed it outright. With the shooting as well, because you just go in, you shoot everything that you can't reach. You shoot off like the Bolt Boys, the Kill Bows on turn 1 got shot off. It's just
it's a very bad rock paper scissors matchup.
Yeah,
don't include tides or anything, isn't it?
I think at the end of turn 2 he had maybe 5 Gut Rippers in combat and 10 Hobgrots left. So it was literally his whole army got absolutely sponked, which is. You know, I got all my charges, which was a big thing. Like some were 8s, some were 9s. They all went in, and the whole army just fell to bits. And it was a bit one-sided. I'd feel a bit. I did say to him, "I'm sorry. I know it's not much fun when you can't get to roll dice because basically I go with everything and I just kill it before it gets to swing. It's kind of a bit boring, but I've got to do what I need to do. So." It was a very one-sided matchup, and he knew as soon as he got the draw. He said, "This is not the only army I didn't want to play." And I said, "Well,
we did well in that round, like really well." Didn't we?
Yeah,
I had a like do your best questionable matchup, but I was the one who was the least unhappy about facing the army I was, and then we had one other strongish one in our favour and a good one in our favour.
Yeah, I think Pete had a really tough match against the zombie horde Soul Blight.
Oh yeah,
so. Yeah. Because we won round 156, I think, out of 60, and then this round we capped 60 points. So, but it's even the way the scoring worked is you get like 17 for a major, and then you adjust the score by the difference in battle tactics and grand strategy. So if you've got like 5 tactics and they got 3, the difference is 2. So you'd be a 19-1, for example.
I thought it was quite an elegant way to do it, actually.
I quite like it, yeah. I might adapt it for FACEHAMMER because I think it's...
thought into it, for sure.
Yeah, it is good. Obviously, like Warhammer World, the pack I thought was quite well thought out in that regard for the team event. And the tables look lovely. As you see from the photos. So I know we sung its praises back in November when we went, but yeah, added more tables, some more cool scenery, and yeah, just great. I mean, Steve's been a really good job of running the events team, and it was good to see Ed back as well, and he was looking after my dietary requirement weirdness, so that was much appreciated as well.
Yeah, really good. So, and Steve was mega open with asking people for feedback as well. It's it's very, very clear that he's taking feedback on board. Yeah, we still need acoustic baffling though. Put some banners up there.
Yeah, it's a bit echoey, isn't it? And you struggle with it though, don't you? Because you're kind of audio sensitive. But
yeah, it makes me want to die. That's why I prefer playing on top tables.
And you got little hot ears
in a quiet zone. Yeah, I do. The temperature as well.
But Yeah, and to be honest, like the whole kind of atmosphere is good. Like I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun. When we were riding high, two wins. We were like 2 team wins.
Going hard.
Going high, and then we ended up.
I've got my game.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's right.
Okay.
So I had I was one of 2 people who kind of took a matchup. So not necessarily because other people didn't want that, but because other people had a better matchup. So he got Russ into a good matchup. He put Alex into like a one that he thought could be in his favor, I believe as well. And then I went into Sons of Irmak Kragnos, which was a gorgeous army, Will Hodson. Just outstanding, like really nice conversions. He had a lighting element in his base in a subtle way that I thought was like maximum level.
That wasn't round 2, though, was it? That was round 4.
That's round 2.
Was it round 2?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, maybe I got it wrong. Yeah, okay.
I presume I'm wrong when people ask questions like
No. I'm just curious because did they have the Incarnate Iron Jaws, which Alex played? Because I've got a picture of you playing that, and I can see that in the background. That might be why I've got a photo of it, because I might have finished my game so quickly, which might make sense.
Yeah, Protestant. Are we?
Because it was Chris Swift with that, and then Roguide or oh my god, can't read these lists.
No.
I enjoy Incarnate. Yeah, it is. Yeah, sorry, you are right. Yeah, it was round 2. I've got a picture of that one. Yay.
First time for everything. Where was I?
Sorry.
It's all right. So I played Will with this gorgeous army, like super nice shading, really cleverly done. Like I believe he'd used an airbrush for starting stages, then done a little bit of careful dry brushing, then done a little bit of careful edge highlighting. So he had made the most of the texture on the Gargant skin. His Kragnos was awesome, holding this great big banner. He printed off banners and made them look, like not printed off.
That's old school.
Yeah, real nice. Like proper, like it's with these store managers, these guys.
I think they all are, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's blatant that this guy is used to getting the best out of a time frame for an army and not suffering whatsoever. It looked bloody awesome. Really good. So pleasure to play the army and the gent, because he was a really nice opponent, but quite a difficult matchup for me. So he had Kragnos, 2 Gatebreakers, a single Man Crusher, and
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. It's scary though. It was really scary. So I think we've got a picture of my deployment for this, where I look probably pretty much like I'm being aggroed and maybe about to lose. Yeah. So he came forwards, didn't get the turn. I did a shuffle, like a backward shuffle, slightly, and kind of rearranged things a little. And the entirety of my intent here was to use rerolls from Epidemus, have some stuff in trees, have some beasts out on the flank to maybe tempt him a bit, so I didn't take everything at once, and then to do casualty removal with Bagpipe Man and try and get my best out of that, and I did 100%.
To stop him piling in, so he can't do much, and then so you take the casualties away, but leave one within 3, and then
exactly that. Yeah. So you end up taking, like the 3-inch weapon for Kragnos, which is still scary as all hell, but it's a lot less.
It's better than having all of it in it. So
right. So I did that for multiple things, and this is the reason that I think, because he could have maybe got this turn 1, but he didn't risk it. Probably the right decision from him. But if he'd risked it and gone in while I didn't have the no pile-ins thing, he would have gone like Gargant, Kragnos, and I would have been dead. The game would have been.
Yeah, I would have just. If it was me, I would have just shock and order off the table and worried about the objectives later. Because you can flip the battle tactics to the ones that are like kill a unit, do that, bring it down, ignore the fact, because this was tectonic interference, so you've got the objectives across the middle, but then what he kind of did is went into you, and I think then he decided to back off and go to the objectives.
It was leave the you can't pile in your trapped bubble.
Yeah.
Because he could do nothing about it. Like,
no, of course,
about it. I put a Mystic Shield on Sloppity once to stop him from shooting it and stuff like that. Like, it was my strat, was to have him there frustrated and pinned. I made a really big mistake in this one that almost cost me the game.
Right.
Actually. I brought down my drops. All of them failed their charges. Everyone failed their charges until my 5th game, actually, and that's 4.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
I
that's
used to
pretty
reroll on
bad.
them each time. Pretty grim. So they failed their charges. I was going for like the little man crusher and stuff like that. And then rather than basically he was gonna have to step backwards, and I should have put them down as a barrier to him being able to reach the objectives and sacrifice them. But I'm Nurgle, so maybe it wasn't a sacrifice. Maybe they wouldn't have killed it, or with casualty removal, the drones in particular, maybe I could stop him from being able to hit me with all of his weapons if he was doubling down on me, or something like that. And I put them far back to, like keep them safe. And the moment he got the priority, I was like, crap, I could have won the game there for me at that point. So it ended up being a little bit of a scrabble, and I killed everything but one Gargant in the end, because he hadn't wiped out the Plague Bearers, because they got down to like 9 or something. Because he hadn't wiped them out, I still had that unit. I didn't feel the need to summon a unit anywhere. I still had my characters and my trees to summon from. So I actually ended up summoning a Great Unclean One in the last round and ganking Gargant with basically everything that was left in my army. He had one that was kind of standing around over the side because he needed to be on objectives. And I sent 2 Great Unclean Ones in and the rest of my army, and ended up taking out a Gargant in a turn, which was great. Final score was 29-28 because he was playing Gargant.
Wow. Yeah, because you got the prime target thing.
Yeah, really good game, and some monster ones throughout the game. But like a really, probably one of the best games of Warhammer I've ever had the pleasure of playing, and he was a really nice opponent.
Yeah, it did look super good actually, and like Alex played a blinder against the Incarnate Mirror, where he got his Rogue Idol into it and stuff, and then he managed to kill his Maw Crusher, and it was it was good. He played a really good, solid game, and Pete was thrown under the bus in that one. So
he was, we paired well that round, and we played well that round, and we didn't have a load of bad luck, so it went in our favour and we capped.
Yeah, which then meant we were up on the top playing team Bad Dies, or the podcast that used to be from 10 years ago. Yeah, so there's a picture of us before the round doing the pairings, and this is Ben Curry, Adam Hall, Tom Maudsley, and Martin Moran. So very solid team.
Players.
So Alex looking a little bit starstruck being on table 1. And then I got paired into Daughters of Cain, Ben Curry, and I think I misplayed this mission quite badly actually. So I haven't got pictures of the game, but I've got a picture of the deployment sort of close enough you can see. So essentially, this is after I've done my first turn. So I deployed my army because I'm a 1-drop. And the mission's quite close, actually, like really close, and I was just too close to him. So basically, he had a 24-inch range shot in the hero phase from the bow snakes. Marafi was going to be able to charge me. He probably would be able to charge the combat snakes as well, because they get 2d6 run and charge with autoing 6 or reroll 1s and stuff, because he's Hagnar.
That ridiculous.
And then he had 10 life takers he could drop from the sky with the combat ones, and if they charge you, then they do lose damage.
Really well. I'm not out playing him with those. He plays them spot on.
And I was like, oh, this is not good, because he's deployed really aggressive. And what I should have done is deployed super defensive, although the terrain was very hampering me. There was a lot of big pieces in my deployment, and the boat kind of dictates where I put stuff. I could have been way more defensive. And normally I give the turn away and flip the tides, and I looked at the board and I went, if I give the turn away, he could probably shoot my screen off and get Marafi into my army. But in hindsight, I probably should just let that happen, because I've got the ward from the boat, the turtle's there. He's not going to kill. He might kill a unit of thralls, but he's not going to kill like both units and the turtle. And
then you get a chance to hit her back as well. You start damaging her.
Yeah, and also like it allows me to, because when I flip the tides, I can retreat and shoot and charge in the first turn, so I'm not pinned. So he can't pin me with Marafi. So I should have done that. But what I did is I took the first turn to get some points, get some board position. But actually, I had to expose my sharks, so I shouldn't have put the 2 sharks out on the flank. I should have kept them way back. And basically what happened is he went in, he put these snakes into this shark, Marafi into these sharks. He ran the daughters into the idol and dropped the canary heart renders into them. He didn't kill it all. And then it was a very close game, and it came down to a few things at the end. I was chipping away at Marafi, and there was a little thing at the end of the game where he charged his, because I had Unleash Hell, and if Marafi and he had his hero Melusi on like 1 wound, and she charged in. Well, I think she had 3 wounds left. She charged in, and I had to stand and shoot because Marafi was then going to go in. She could only take 2 wounds before she died, so I couldn't unleash hell on her. So I unleashed hell on the hero with my 10 Reavers. Didn't kill it, which I was like, well, that's a bit unlucky. And then because they're on 2s, 3s, even with unleash hell, they're on 2s. And then Marafi charged the turtle. He then attacked with the Melusi and killed. He attacked with Marafi, didn't kill the turtle. Then I didn't kill the Melusi, and then his Melusi killed my Reaver unit, which was like, really. But then my turtle killed Marafi. So yeah, it was kind of. I think I made a few mistakes in this game, and I think if I played it again, I would have played it a lot differently, because I actually think it's a really good matchup for me. Yeah. But when I played Mike at Hampshire, I beat Daughters with a similar list. He wasn't Hagnar, but the issue I had in that game is I didn't touch Marafi. So she was like, just did so much work over 5 rounds. Whereas in this game, I made a point of trying to make sure I was doing damage to Marafi every turn. So even if it's 1 or 2 wounds, because it just means she gets to a point where she can't be used. Yeah. And then she's a prime target as well. But I lost the mission. It wasn't by an awful lot, but I did end up losing the mission. So I got all 5 battle tactics and kept my grand strategy alive. So I think at the end of the game, there wasn't a lot left. He had like 6 bow snakes, I think, and 10 witches and a hag. And all I had left was a hero. And I think that's it, like a hero. Buddy.
Yeah.
So it was pretty.
He plays that army really well. He's very experienced with it.
I lost my aspect of the sea to the life taker charge, which was, though he did kill 5 on the way in with his stand and shoot, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, I mean, it's what it is. I mean, it was a good game, but I think playing it again, I would have done a lot of things differently. I think I'm not as sharp with the Idoneth as he is with Daughters, so I'm making probably a couple wrong decisions with it, and it's quite a fragile army. So
his army doesn't. It's a good one for not particularly caring about what your opponent does as well. You do your stuff well, and you may well win the game.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't massively matter what your opponent's doing.
And he really well protected his heroes, because they were both in the middle, not be able to. So there's no way I could teleport the aspect of the sea and shoot or crack and tooth them. So yeah, I should have just given first turn and just gone with goal, and then you have a go at trying to do as much damage as you can before I go, and then potentially double you, and then that's game over. So
yeah,
but yeah, I got it was quite a brutal round, so I lost 17-3 in that game, because although I got 5 battle tactics and a grand strategy, he won the major. So
yeah, well, mine didn't go much better. So I played a literal clone of the list that I played in round 2. So Kragnos and Gargants, shepherded about by Adam Hall in a scenario where we start closer. Felt pretty grim and intimidating. No one wanted this matchup really, but I was still going to try and do my best out of it. And so a weird thing happened where I just allowed myself to get distracted. So I took off some casualties from the Plague Bearers. I took them off as if they had 2 wounds each. But oh no, they've got 3. Put them back, and because I was, I changed and I did maths. I then took off the wrong ones, and exactly what I was saying about it being important, that I'd done so well, I believe, in the previous game, I did the opposite of. And I did it, I looked down and I was like, and he was like, what? And I was like, crap. Like, he didn't think it was as big a deal as it was that turn, and then 2 turns later, he was like, yeah. So I essentially cost myself the options be in this game. He played it really well, and it was a hard scenario for me and my army, but I could have kept myself in it, and I didn't give myself the option because of the one most important mistake that it's not to do with you tanking or damage or like just doing really well and surviving, like you're meant to be careful about what you remove. And I wasn't, and I didn't, so I died. Unfortunately, that was over really swiftly. Didn't particularly have options there. He didn't make a mistake anywhere, played the army really well, and was just like super threatening and aggro with it. But me losing those, like probably like it's somewhere between 5 and 7 plague bearers. That point, it's like a cumulative thing, and 3 turns later, I was really, really suffering as a result of it. So yeah, lost that one quite big. I think maybe I got like, you got a point from it or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, it was a pretty hefty loss. Round. Yeah, massively.
Probably safe to say they played well. We made a couple of mistakes on, in most of the tables. They had good lists. They were shepherded by Tom. He does a great job. So yeah.
Yeah. Then we had the sort of the Saturday night, and we went out for dinner and stuff, and it was very fun.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was a nice time. And then we had Team Fact in the morning. And I ended up, so this is some of the mistakes I made in the pairing process where I didn't really think about the mission. So I played Max Saul at Hampshire with his Archeon list, and I beat him fairly convincingly. However, it was the Vice. So I've not played the Vice before, actually, or I might have played it once. So it's not a mission I'm very familiar with. And I thought what we could do is bully him in the pairings, because we would put me and someone else against him and he wouldn't pick me. Mm-hmm. But actually he wasn't really doing the pairings, and their guy apparently was a bit of a savant of Warhammer, just went, we'll take the Idoneth out in that game because Archon can sit in the middle and just win. Which essentially is
they
what
said
happened.
Themselves that if they hadn't had overnight looking at our lists to consider it, they wouldn't have did what they did. So they used their time well and used their brains.
Yeah, whereas we just had gins and had food in a pub. So anyway, but yeah, and well, I got to play Max again, which is I really like Max, so a lot of respect for him. His painting's really nice, and
army there.
We had a really nice,
gorgeous
game. And what I did is I didn't flip the tides, because the depth of the board, I thought I'm not going to be engaged until turn 3 anyway. And I also I did give him the first turn, but he was very conservative. He kept everything really far back.
I saw that. He looked scared.
And the objectives start at the back anyway, so
yeah,
it plays into his hands because my shooting's not in range. But in turn 2, because I hadn't flipped the tides, I had run and shoot and charge. So basically, like my sharks, I auto 6 the run, moved them 20, then charged into his Vanguard, and I tried to shoot everything else in. But not that I could get the Reavers in range, but because Archeon's just such a threat. But I thought if I could take that objective off him by killing 1 or 2 Vanguard, then I can do it. But the problem is with Zinch, all-out defense and Mystic Shield, it's just not happening. With Ren 1, even with Ren 2, and I'm just like not killing them. And like I didn't get rid of them. I did pin him in place. And effectively what I was trying to do is get around the back of his army to attack the squishy stuff. But it just wasn't happening. And basically Archeon just got powered up. I think on one turn he had Oracular Visions, Mystic Shield, and Best Day on. And I'm like, well, I don't even have Ren 3 in my army, so let alone any way to do that. So I ended up with the Aspect of the Sea, the Turtle, and the Shark being his back end. The Turtle failed a charge on a 10. If I got that, he would have got into the Vanguard on that objective, and I could have got them. But in turn 4, the objective goes to the middle of the table, and then he just basically like has Archeon on it with his stuff. I think he had like 2 Vanguard and his 2 heroes left at that point, but I was like, well, I can't get up on the mission, and Archeon's just going, kill that, it's a monster, he's going to get his grand strategy because I have to kill Archeon and I can't kill Archeon. So it was just like, not happening. The aspect of the sea, he was like tried to do some stuff, but he's just generally disappointing. Tried to use the spell to reduce their armor save. One of the things I probably could have done is try and play around that with Archeon, but the problem is he's got a spell ignore, so you can't even use Tsunami of Terror to reduce his armor save by points because he just goes off 4 up and it doesn't work. And you're just like, great. I managed to get it off once on the Vanguard I was fighting, but he doesn't do enough combat output to get there, and there was no sharks or turtle in to do it. And perhaps I should have on turn 2 not been so gun-ho with that opportunity and just been like maybe a bit more conservative, but I don't think this mission was really against it. And they even had a big bit of garrisonable to put both his heroes in, giving him -1 to hit and +1 save, so
I don't like the amount of garrisonable they had and the size of the garrisonable things.
I quite like it because it adds a dimension to the game, but because
they also had a lot of impassable days, quite big footprint taken up by terrain. And if you've got faction terrain, we had a couple of games where my opponent was like, honestly, dude, just move stuff, otherwise you can't even put your trees down.
Yeah, I mean, when we set up the board, we always made sure that nothing was within like 6 or 7 inches of each other, so there wasn't any like because stuff was getting moved around.
On the ones where you've got a zone like this, though,
but we knew the mission, so we just made sure it were like spread out. So, but that was a loss to me. But I got all 5 battle tactics and grand strategy, so it's just what it was. But couldn't get there. Couldn't get round Archeon. He's too big, because the problem is we're playing this way. So if he's in the middle of the table and he's got like a 14-inch move, there's literally nowhere you can go.
No, mad, isn't it?
You just can't get around the back of him. But whereas when I played before and we were playing this way, I could go like this sideways and round him.
He's still so good, particularly in Siege. He's exponentially better.
Yeah, he's just like absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you very unlikely to kill him.
Unless you got mass mortals.
Yeah, and I don't have in my army
or something. Yeah.
I think the only chance I would have had is if I high tide, my whole army sat there with the turtle. I go tsunami, it goes off. I managed to get his armor save down by 1 or 2 points, and I just charge my whole army in and just try and kill him at high tide. But the likelihood of that happening is so low, it's not even worth. I mean, it wasn't even worth rolling the attack dice, because you're just like, I can roll 45 attacks, and I think you have to do 72 attacks to do a single wound to him at round 1. So,
one time, yeah.
So,
I played, unfortunately. Well, he was a lovely opponent, but the Savant matchup, King himself, Seb, with another Kragnos army, so my third at this point. It was Kragnos Iron Jaws. He had Gore Grunters in his list, and he was using he's using one where they get to fight again. Is it Blood Tooths?
Pass. Yeah, maybe. Or the one with the Gore Grunters, right?
Yeah. He played really well. He played absolutely spot on. I had a bit of bad luck here. Again, I failed every single one of my charges at a point at which it would have made a really big difference. Like he didn't send everything towards me at all, which was pretty good on his behalf. And then I didn't win a priority. I don't like moaning about stuff, but it does make a difference. So in amongst all of that, I dropped down in a line. He'd left a gap. It was probably his only mistake. He'd left this perfect gap where I could, like, my army's here like this, his army's here like this, and there was enough room for me to deploy my drones, 2 units of drones and Lord of Afflictions, which I put in the sky to threaten him, and he was kind of staying back because of. He left me enough room to fit them fairly close to my army, but all of them within 9 of being able to charge key units. And he'd made a real mistake. It's not an immediately apparent one, but from my perspective, it was a big deal. He left Kragnos in a position where I could charge one of his units, bring Kragnos within 3 of a drone unit, and then have him pinned. It was a huge deal. And I could do that with the Lord of Afflictions, and I could do it with the unit of drones. So I failed all my charges there, which was bad. Also, that was bad, that was my fault, was I had a Beast of NURGLE who was half an inch, completely unnecessarily, outside of my you can't pile in bubble. fighting 3 gore grunters that he teleported across the table and got in, and that ended up really coming back to bite me. Also, I had a round where kind of things were blobbing in the middle, and the only strategy I could pick was to wipe that unit out. They were down to 1 left, and I just had a really bad round against it. Left one of them alive on 1 wound. That was quite a big point swing. And then it hit me back and killed the beast, and it was free, and it meant that it could go and do some other stuff. But he played really well. Apart from, like I say, like the Kragnos next to a unit thing, it's just not the type of thing you'd really consider unless you were like Ascension level game playing, when you do have to come into the middle and come towards my army anyway. But I banked on something, didn't get it, and as a result, he just kind of pummeled into me with his bomb priorities and smashed me off the table. It was quite a brutal game. I think I got like 3 or 4 points out of it, which I was fairly happy with under the circumstances. But the bubble thing with the beast was really pretty silly. I could have just been half an inch different, and it would have made a really big difference.
Yeah. But these things, I mean, this is your first time you played with the list, so these little bits, these are the sort of things you would have like learned if you'd had a couple like weeks of practice games but this is, I think, like tournament gaming is a great way to like really, because it forces you to play like multiple games with the same army against multiple different things. So
I guess really scary stuff like aggro stuff was all I faced. Everything. I think
it's because like a lot of our armies didn't want to face it. Yeah. Because me particular, I don't, anything that does mortals on the charge and stuff like that is just a nightmare for me. Because it gets around my high tide and like, so Kragnos is like a big red for me. Although I've got the opportunity to maybe kill him, like he's still got a 2-up armor save and a 6-up wards, and he's fast, and they got 3d6 charges. You're just like, I can't. Oh man, I just cannot bank on me killing him. And then obviously like Alex has got an Iron Jaws army, so it's very like fast but also fragile to mortals. And then Stormcast probably don't like that either. So you're the de facto who can blob and survive that kind of impact. But you played like Gargants, Kragnos, Iron Jaws. So 3 of your games. That's missions that we didn't want to play, and so. That's kind of the job.
Good learning opportunities, and I like that in team events. I like that sometimes you'll go into things and your duty is to like, all right, this is bad, but you're doing one for the team already. Try and get some points out of it. Yeah. But, in that one, I could have got a major out of it had my charges gone up, or maybe even if I'd played a little bit better with my bubbles. So
I think we lost the round.
We got pummeled that round. They played really well. That was the round of the bad luck, though. Everyone had.
Well, that was the last round for me, but that was.
Well, I think that was the one where I looked to my right and Pete got a double 1 charge against.
Yes, he did.
When he needed 2 CPs to re-roll it, and he only had 1 available. 1 in 30.
Yeah, he lost his game on that key, not dragon charge. And if he got one of his dragons battle shocked off,
it was that. Then he rolled a 6 on priority, and his opponent rolled a 6 and won it. Like, it was just like 3 really pivotal single dice rolls in a row for him. Yeah. He got pooped.
Yeah, exactly. So it was one of those games those rounds that, I mean, mine was completely my fault. I should have just been like, no, I can't play that. So
Alex failed 10 5-ups on his Rogue Idol as well.
Because any of the other lists would have been fine for me. I think, but I think whoever played Archeon was going to lose.
Yeah, probably.
Because I just think in that mission you can't
exist.
What can you do against it? So it's like, I mean, because I just don't think in any of our lists had enough damage output to kill Archeon.
I might have had a chance if I could have got my stuff up there, but maybe not even. I could have dropped just waves of stuff to die potentially. Maybe it's a hard one for anyone.
Don't know if you've got the speed to get to the middle of the table before him, though. No. And he outdrops you, so it's because I think he was like a 5 drop or something. But
it's just going then, maybe stodge him with a couple of waves and cross fingers turn 2.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but I mean, it's all hindsight, isn't it? So and then we ended up in the last round having an interesting draw. And I got to play against Fred's Cities of Sigmar Hallowed Heart army, which brought me out in hives because I thought it was going to be another bridge billion crossbows, but it was a really weird list. Actually really liked his army list.
I thought it was cool.
So he had like 6 demigryph knights, a griffin riding wizard. He had Drillia Van Dents, or whatever her name is, the little witch hunter, the one that everyone takes and the guy never comes out because he's rubbish. And then a fleet master, which is the common general, like 4 Scourge Runner chariots, a unit of Sisters of the Fawn, and a unit of like 9 Paladors or 6 Paladors. And basically what he does is he casts all the spells on the Paladors. So every time they do a wound, you take a mortal wound, they get Mystic Shields, they've got like +2 to run and charge, and they get like
anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, but they teleport. So they teleport 9 away with +2 to charge you after they shoot you. And then if you hit them, every wound you do on a 4+, you take a mortal wound. So it's like you kind of and he had a prime as well, which I forgot about until it basically come down and push my poo in. And so basically, like, this game was, I thought, okay, well, I'll go first. He can go first because I'm not bothered about his shooting. And I think this was a mistake. I changed my ritual, so I didn't flip the tides, and I chose the 12-inch max range for the thing that he couldn't shoot me with the Scourge Runners, and he'd have to actually like come within 12. But actually, the Paladors teleport and charge. They're actually the thing that they don't care about that. So, and the Scourge Runners he just uses as a screen. But essentially, what happened is he teleported the Scourge, the Paladors over, attacked my 2 sharks which are on the flank, which is always the key target everyone goes for. But I had my turtle and a thrall unit ready to countercharge him if he did that. So I was like sort of set up there like it is the bird objective one. This game honestly was like back and forth. I managed to wipe out, I doubled him. I managed to wipe out the Paladors. I charged into his back line with a unit of thralls. I killed his general. I killed Drillia Van Dents. I killed the Sister of the Former shooting, that was just a screen which allowed me to charge through. I killed like half his Scourge Runners. The Paladors were dead. Then he doubled me back, and the Griffin charged my Reavers, killed my Reavers. The Prime dropped down, did his mortal wound burst, was able to take like 3 wounds on the turtle, 3 wounds off the turtle, killed the shark unit because I didn't get to move, so they were in range to be hit with all of that. He then charged the thralls. He killed that. He charged the thralls with both the wizard and the Prime. The thralls killed the wizard because it was high tide. He teleported across the other side of the board because he comes back with D3 wounds on a 2+. But he was in my territory, so that scored his objective. And then he piled in and killed my turtle with the Prime, and I was in combat with the Prime with 2 thralls and a thrall master, and I was like, I can't kill that even in high tide, so I actually retreated out of combat. I thought, well, I can't face that. And I teleported the Aspect of the Sea within 12 of his general, and I tried to cast the Mortal Wound spell. He unbound it, and then I thought, okay, well, I'll then try and shoot him, because I did my battle tactic, bring it down, and luckily I did shoot and kill him, and I was like, oh, thank God for that. His demis went and killed my other shark. Then he had like 1 chariot left with like 5 wounds that my Aspect of the Sea failed to kill, that he retreated out of combat. If I'd killed that, then it would have been game over, because I would have killed it, burnt the objective. Then I'm like, okay, so he's lost that because he won turn 3. I took the objective off on my side, and then but that chariot cost me the game, because basically he, on the last turn, my Aspect of the Sea was on his middle objective. He charged it with the Demigris. He survived the combat because he had a Mystic Shield on, and the Thrall Master was the only thing alive from my other units, and he ran into the middle of the table to get 2 units into their deployment. Then all I had to do was run him. His chariot was on the other objective that I hadn't burned previously because he didn't die. And if my Thrall Master, what I wanted to do was, he had 1 wound left, the chariot. So what I wanted to do was ping the wound on the chariot with a bolt from the Aspect of the Sea. teleport out of combat onto his other objective, which had no one on it, run the Thrall Master onto that objective, and then burn that objective, and I would have won the game. But I miscast with a reroll on the Arcane Bolt. Rolled a 4, then re-rolled it into a double 1. And that cost me the game by 1 point. So, but the aspect of the sea had failed to shoot, charge, and kill a 5 wound chariot with a 6 up armor save. I'm like, that cost me the game, basically. So the aspect of the sea was that bad in that with stuff that I had to. Problem is, I had to rely on him to perform, and he just didn't.
It doesn't work, does it? And that's. No. I think you probably. Do you think it's fair to say that he's worse? Because the lists were really good at this event. There was a lot of serious teams there. You need something that kind of makes a difference. Turn 1 or turn 2, or is amazing whenever it comes.
I think the problem is
kind of like a long-term force multiplier piece, and he just couldn't assert himself.
I think the problem is he can be impactful, but in subtle ways, like unbinding a key spell or getting the Ren spell off on a unit, because he actually got this on the Paladors 3 stacks of the -1 armor save in combat, but they were going to die anyway. But I didn't.
Yep.
Didn't make any difference, but I had to be really careful how I killed them, because if I did it with like the Thralls and he popped a load of 4-up wards, then 4-up mortal wounds back at me, then I was going to lose my Thrall unit. So I had to be like really careful. I could have, when he moved the Prime over, what I could have done is I could have, remembering it was high tide, I could have redeployed in a way that the turtle would have to be in combat. But then he's got a 3-inch reach, and he could just kill the turtle. So it's like I don't know what the right answer is, but he basically killed my turtle in combat anyway. So I don't know. Like, I think him doubling me back was just massive. If I'd won the turn between after I had my turn 2 and he had a go, if he hadn't have then doubled me back, I would have won. Like quite convincingly. But he just, and then even like the stand shot for the Reavers into the Griffin, him to kill the Reavers with just the Griffin was quite lucky. I think if I was in high tide in turn 2, I would have had a 5-up ward save and all my Thralls, and I wouldn't have had to be that coy about how I attacked the Paladors, and also he wouldn't have killed the Reavers because they would have had a 5-up ward save. And I just don't think the 12-inch, so the ritual was wrong, and I just don't think being the turn, the way I had the thing ordered was wrong as well. I shouldn't have bothered. And I shouldn't have just been that gun-ho with the Reavers, with the Thralls, because I don't need to be that aggressive because I've got a shooting army, and I'd already neutered his shooting, and I could have been patient, and I think that would have also zoned out the Prime. So I think for me, it's just like, it's understanding that when you're playing an army that shoots, you don't have to force the game. But I'm so used to playing combat armies like OBR and NURGLE that you just have to push into them because you're like, well, if I don't, they're going to kill me anyway. But I need to learn that patience of when to push.
It's hard to be. I mean, a lot of your games are close, and it's really hard to wait until turn 5 to win a game, right? Like
and especially when your army's so fragile. So, but I think I made a misplay in this game as well. But like, for me, I think Idoneth they're quite a high skill floor to play them effectively. I think that showed at Hampshire when so many finished low.
Exactly what I was talking about with my army. Feels the opposite of that. Like you can't get away with stuff with Idoneth, really.
No, and I think I learned an awful lot over the weekend. But that was...
You learn more and you learn it instantly. I think they're probably one of the best armies to use in practice games for increasing your player quality. But
by losing by 1 point, and I was like, I feel... And I don't want to seem like sour grapes. I don't feel like aggrieved about it, because Fred's army is very well thought out. He played it very well. He made good decisions.
As well.
It's very unique. We had a great game. Actually, it's probably my favourite game of the weekend, because it was so up and down. And even I said, like, I did this thing where I Kraken-toothed, best day ever, shot a Scourger and a Chariot in my aspect seat and charged it, still didn't kill it. And he was like, oh, that's the one that then retreated away, then come back and then cost me the game because he didn't kill it with a bolt. So that 6 wound Scourge Runner Chariot, my Aspect of the Sea had 2 rounds of shooting, round of combat, a round of magic, and didn't do 6 wounds, even on best day. And he was just like, why did you burn best day on that? And I said, because he just doesn't do anything if you don't have +1 to wound. And he was like, he was really shocked. He was like, I didn't expect like him to be that bad in combat. And I just said, he just is that unreliable. Like it seems stupid, but he's so unreliable.
Well, especially like I said, the lists are really good. People have made their stuff as reliable as possible. They played team rolling ones for armor saves, or in this round I faced magma drops and they were like 2s and 2s with plus damage and extra attacks and stuff like that. People aren't leaving things to probability.
No.
In like a top level team event, like a lot of the teams, they were really good, and the lists were in general very good. The ones that we faced, at least. I don't think we didn't face any teams where we're like, oh, they're soft. You know, the lists. Everything was pretty scary.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and even like, and the thing is as well, like, because I've not played much against cities, and his list was so different that I was like, oh, okay, I didn't really anticipate how it would play on the table, and the prime was such an X factor. Doing a double turn from 2 to 3 was he basically single-handedly killed my sharks, my turtle, my reavers, my thrall. So he killed like a good like 800 points of my army and denied my grand strategy by standing next to the boat. So yeah, it was a good game. So, but it felt like. We talked at the end, and I said, I think I can win this if this happens, because I still had the tactic to take 2 objectives in his territory. So I said, well, if I do that and I burn one, then I'm going to do a tactic. I'm going to beat you by 2 or 3 points, I think. But it was a good game. And you played Fire Slayers.
I did. So I faced not Maudsley's 6 Magma Drop list, but I'm pretty sure his name was Simon. Simon's 5 Magma Drop list. He had a bit of a weird one because of grand strategy. So his grand strategy was to have an invocation on the table at the end of the game.
Oh, I saw this. He had that like flames thing. Did he have the trait where his general died and he becomes one? Did he have that?
I don't think so, but he had 2 in his list. Had the Infernal Beast one, which is an awesome model actually. His painting was nice. It was all. He said that he doesn't particularly enjoy painting. I was like, well, could have given me. Your army looks great. And he just done really good, realistic reverse dry brushing where you reverse up to the black or the darker colours on the flames. His army looked amazing. Nicely based as well, pretty consistent. He had 2 little dudes on feet who basically did nothing apart from stand on objectives and run the pizza oven. And then
to see the Papa John's kitchen crew.
Exactly. I mean, they did their duty, and then 5 magma drops, one of which was as tooled up as is possible to be. Like, my God, they can be pretty heavy. So it had the once a game you can attack and pile in twice. Once a game you can double your attacks, which you do before you add other attacks, but still you can get up to like 10 attacks, which is scary. Friend 3, damage 3, but it was damage 4. Something else was going down. Like he was. It was a very, very scary thing, but this is the one that I alluded to earlier. I saw his wounds triumph, and I was like, you can only put that on one thing. Like, are you sure you shouldn't have like the charge one? He's like, oh, in retrospect, maybe, yeah. And then his turn 2, he had everything converging on me. He put down the invocation as a wall in the middle of the table, and the Magmadross can just step over it, and then you have to go around it unless you're a flyer. So you zoned off the entire table because there was like a wildwood here, and then like another terrain piece here, and he just put a little bridge between them, or a fence rather, and he could just wade over it if he wanted, and I couldn't, apart from with my drones in the same way, which made it quite difficult for me to get to him. I had to kind of go like that or land stuff on a
the firewall's really good.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's a key piece, and he played it well. And then he had this kind of it was like the scary general mega damage magma drop, another one here, one here, and one kind of here. And the one here, the first and foremost, he needed like I got the I don't think it mattered, but it felt helpful at the time when I was hoping that this would happen, otherwise I might die. I got the -1 to charges and can't pile in buff off. The turn roll. That was the turn that it was. So that made me feel a bit safe. It's probably the most useful the wheel felt in the entire event. And he failed with a reroll the charge on this guy and didn't have a reroll left, so he ended up getting 2 magma drops in, one of which was the scary general, and I'd left my plague bearers in 2 lines with enough room for him to get over to the great unclean one, which felt like a risk that I needed to take, because otherwise he was going to wipe out the plague bearers, and the idea was, the front rank had died and then the second rank could be there, the standard stuff. I also had the ability to kind of pile in around the edges and bring another one within 3 and stuff like that, so I could hold up 3 out of his 5 magma drops. One was off here chasing a beast who was too far away. Beast was doing work.
Yeah.
And yeah, he failed this charge, which trapped 1 back, which was awful for him, and then he got less in than he wanted. He got Pappy. I used Epidemus rerolls. He got some really good damage through. I hadn't best day evered, which was a mistake from me. And although I had Mystic Shield on the Great Unclean one, and he got a massive amount of damage through, I did, basically nothing back, and any damage I did back wasn't going to limit the guy on top's attacks. And then he went for a second round, and I had to burn, I think, 2 out of 3 rerolls I had available at that time to keep my Great Unclean one alive on 2 wounds. So it was pretty squeaky. But he survived, and that was really important. He survived. He healed. I got the turn, didn't do much, and I did best day him. He survived again, big deal. And then I got I'd lost priorities, but then I got a priority, and that priority was really big because it basically meant Pappy survived and healed. At this point, his general had died to just, in the turn where there was the no pile-ins off, it meant that I could aggro my plague bearers a bit and my other stuff a bit. So I got some mortals through on him, and Pappy hadn't hit anything back because he couldn't reach anything. He was just standing there existing. So he couldn't kill himself, which was kind of nice. Which again, I was really worried about. He could charge me with anything, and the fact that I'd kill it if it bled back on me.
Yeah, that's the pain with those, isn't it? That's what I found when I played Richie, especially for Idoneth. It's like, don't more wounds back.
Yeah. You really don't. It's an issue with Stormcast, and they do it on 6s.
Yeah.
So I got the priority, and it was a really big deal. And at that point, it was basically the game kind of beast did what it did. I dropped down Lord of Afflictions and 1 unit of drones to get the 2 units in your opponent's side of the table. Objective. Made my first charge. I made 1. I made 1 charge at 9 inches out of 20.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, a bit grim, isn't it? Anyway, made in, and I ended up putting Epidemus. He's not bad in combat, actually. Especially if you're doing 6s, 2 wounds or immortal, because he's got quite a lot of crappy attacks. Put him in, Lord of Afflictions. Still on the fence about him in general, actually. And a beast into a magma drop, took it out after the disease points, which was great. Kind of that was then swept across the table. Don't think I needed.
I've got a real love-hate with the Lord of Afflictions. I actually think you're better off having him in your army and just using him as a charging with him and doing the mortal wounds. Whereas if you drop and fail the charge, he gets charged and he just doesn't do much in combat.
Agreed, until
the
hero phase, which
personally think that if I wasn't playing Befouling, which needed Demon General, him having the trait, which is an AoE, everyone is can't use command abilities and gets the disease. Nice. I would just deploy him in my army and just go, and just be like, well, actually, I'm using him. But then you almost want to run 2 because you want to have the option to drop because you need the board presence with NURGLE because you're not fast enough.
Do you think
unless you were playing Droning Guard with Pascal Blightlords, then you get the pre-game move, so you can kind of go, well, actually, I can get the board position without doing this. So it's like I've been.
Do you get a poopy version of that presence with Nurglings, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. But it doesn't.
It's better than nothing.
It's just, I mean, the Lord of Afflictions is that one thing that I'm like, I love him, but you almost want 2 of him. But then you don't want to spend 420 points on him because he's not that good. So
you absolutely don't. He ends up the stuff being off the table.
Just seems a bit expensive for what he does.
It feels hard. And
the issue is a lot of people will have him in their list purely because he does a job that nobody else does. But I don't actually think he performed for his points.
No. I could see him being he's got a 3-up save, which is okay, but he's not amazing in combat. I could see him being 180 points, I think, and that'd feel a bit more 180.
Yeah, I mean, even if he was 200, it would open up a lot because that 10 points drops over. It's a bit like the Puskor Blightlords being 210 is a pain in the bum. Because I think like quite a lot of the NURGLE stuff's just slightly overcosted, but you know,
it's resilient. I guess it's put there because they're tough. I presume.
Maybe. I just think yeah, exactly. That's why I think they're overcosted, because I think movement's a stat that doesn't necessarily get reflected in points very well.
Agreed.
So stuff that's fast or stuff that's slow should have more of a force multiplier. Like things like can like just be where they need to be. Should have a
canary.
It's fast, should have a higher points value. You know, why are they 90 points?
Plus it moves again.
Why are they 90 points? They're not that bad. They should at least. I mean, you know, it's same with like tree revs, isn't it, where they can teleport across around the board. It's like, well, yeah, they're not. If you look at their stat line, they look a bit mediocre, but the fact you can just be where you need to be is huge.
And there's very few people who take like 10 units, but if you do, it's actually quite good.
And Canary that shoot now that they automatically get to move, there's no roll, just means you can steal objectives so easally. They just become absolute no-brainer unit to take in multiples. And if you play Count now, you get one for free. So
even putting that on a 3+, it's just such a big difference. So yes, you definitely get this. Yeah, that was it. We did well that round, didn't we?
44-36, we won the round, so it was a close one. But if I had won my game on that, if I hadn't a miscast with the reroll, then we would have been on a 59.
And 15 points is what we needed for third place.
Yeah,
I think.
So I would have scored 17 extra points. 14 extra points.
Yeah, I think if you got 5 points more, we would have been 4 or something like that. So it's quite close.
Well, we can have a look because I've got the screenshots from BCP of the final standings. If I can.
Who won then?
Well, Team Bad Dice won, or the podcast that formerly was, which is on 279, which is like quite a way ahead of everyone else. Yeah,
well, they played the people below them, which I think already, you know, if they've got a win against them.
Yeah, I think we would have been 4th if we would have that round, because we had the Dragon Slayers was 246, and the 400 Club with Jack Armstrong's team was 241. So we would have been we come 7th, and if we'd had that win in the last one, then we would have been on 59, which would have given us 15 extra points, which would have put us on 217, which would have put us in 4th.
Yeah.
So that literally came down to a 2 dice roll with a reroll getting a 4 or not. So
hard, isn't it? Or if I made one of my charges.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you probably find there's lots of incidents of that across the games, but
all the teams. I think our one really bad luck round with Pete with his double one, when anything else would have been fine. Me failing all those charges and putting my beast in the wrong place. Alex's Rogue Idol failing 10 5-ups. There's a lot of things there, and he ended up having a close game as well.
I think like one of the things that was clear is that as soon as you think you were going to be losing, you had to just play for battle tactics.
Yeah,
and I think
100%.
That two of the rounds, like I think Pete only got 2 of his tactics. Whereas if he got 3, it's suddenly a 91. And if he gets 4, it's then a 18-2. And then if you get 5, then it's so. It's
nice that there's something to play for, though, isn't it? Like it makes you care about it until the very. I found it like it's good, but it was exhausting because even you like, I'm complete. Apart from against Tom, where I was just completely dead, you're still in it until the very last dice roll often, which is nice. It's good. It's a nice way to do it.
I found that I was going to my army book ones sometimes to get the cheeky extra.
I've only got one that's available that's actually worth reading, so I use that.
You could have summoned in a Great and Clean when you did it twice. That's
I didn't need it in those games, unsurprisingly. The fact that you're dropping Pappy is a pretty good sign.
Yeah, I mean, like the one that I quite like is the Ishran Defiance, where you have an Ishran hero contesting an objective you control in their territory. So, like, sometimes you could teleport him with Steed of Tides, and then he's like, you just go where he's there. So that's the that's quite cheeky. I need to look at them more because there's options with stuff like Alapex is killing something,
which they can do,
which they do. And I need to think more about that. But generally, because you've got like kill a battle line, kill a monster, you're generally using them more than that. And then so like you don't need to use those.
There's one in NURGLE, which is if in this round more units from your opponent's army die than your army, and all the rest are basically not worth the paper they're written on in terms of viability.
And I've got one in which is if you retreat 3 units in, I think it's Ebb Tide, and they all charge, you get one, which is like a weird one, but you know, I just hate it because you roll a double 1 and you're like, no. And you've actually got to have 3 units alive in Ebb Tide. And normally when I flip the tides, I'm not in combat, so, and you not want to be charging again. So, but hey ho, it's one of those things. So, but yeah, good event.
Great event.
Happy
really
with the final positions.
Nicely run, nice venue, nice food, like nice people playing in general. Didn't hear about any rulesy stuff.
Yeah,
something was done about slow play that I don't think was. I think it was maybe a broader approach than was required, and gave Steve more to do than he needed to.
Yeah, but I think it was good that he at least like addressed it, because there was an issue at the event with somebody being a bit slow. So yeah,
I mean, it showed that he cared, which is nice, and he obviously does.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of those things in the game that's very tough to do, because like, how do you deal with slow play? It's the age old issue with Warhammer, because it's so interactive in both people's goes. It's chess clocks really aren't that useful unless people are practiced, and it's not something that people want to do.
People aren't assertive as well. The only way you can remedy it is the round after it was an issue. But I feel that's the best way to handle it. Like get an account from both players, or both captains. Maybe that's a bit more objective. And if the game's still going on, which it will be, because I'm talking about slow play. And then the next round, sit someone on that table.
Yeah, I think like if you know where the issue is, you deal with it directly, which is the only thing I would say. So best armies, then I have got some pictures from Ben Johnson's Twitter. So we had James Karch's Stormcast that you had the pleasure of playing, didn't you? So that was one of the noms. I'm just gonna go through these if I can actually get the thing to work. There we go. Alex's Iron Jaws army, which I really like. So
I love it.
These photos are very washed out and a little bit out of focus, so I do apologise.
I took a nice picture of Max's fiery.
Yes, I have got that. I'll get to that one. But yeah, the cabinets have got quite bright lights, so anything in bright colour tends to like pop more, whereas like anything that's subtle tends to look a little bit washed out, or pastel colours. So then like Ben Johnson's Troggoth army was in the cabinet. Which, Johnson's like always been a bit of a master at just painting stuff to a high level very quickly, and looks great. So
it really does. Not your rims though. Can't look at it.
Oh yeah, but that's the GW. You can tell the GW armies because they've all got like coloured rims. Then you've got. I actually think Jez Bickham's army, which is the Beastclaw Rangers with Kragnos, would look really nice with black rims. Just saying, Jez, if you're listening. But yeah, his Kragnos army, that's in there. So
I thought that was the most cohesive looking palette in the entirety of the cabinets. I think that scheme works incredibly well. Like all kind of muted, and it looks wintry.
Yeah,
and definitely black rim it, mate.
Yeah, 100%. Then Damien's Idoneth army that I played in the first round. So his army's there, all nicely painted with his colourful basing. I think he's Dom Hain. Can't remember. Then the really nice Gargant converted army from Tom. Will.
Yeah.
And I really like even like the free. I like the giant holding the little book.
It's great. He's gone
clever. It's really clever.
He's gone really WYSIWYG as well. It was abundantly clear who had what artifacts when we were playing.
Just such a good use of the terrain sets, like to add an element to the the models.
He's also got one of the big Gargant heads on the smaller Gargant, and it makes it look really much like a very old school from Fairy Tales giant proportionally. You know, nice touches everywhere. Really, really gorgeous.
Yeah, big fan of that one. I think it definitely looked good. And then Les's Stormcast evolved. The TM Stormcast come out, which still look great. I mean, unfortunately, because of the light, the paint job's really washed out because it really makes.
If they were one row down, they would look better.
Yeah, I mean the paint job on it is awesome, and
it looks.
It's really nice. So yeah, very technically well executed. And then Max's army just looked amazing in the cabinet because he had a shelf above him taken out because Archeon, which meant the lights were further away, and he's got that bright orange underlight, which just absolutely pinged. And I think this might be why he didn't have the Mind Stealer Phalanx in his list, because it doesn't match his army.
Oh,
because it's on jungle basing. So I
think he took our feedback on board, which is, you know, we had to find reasons not to have his stuff win at FaceHammer because it gets very competitive. We weren't trying to bully him, but when you've got amazing army, you look for mistakes, and the lack of coherency in his army was the thing that we picked on in particular. And he's now got a coherent looking army, and my god, does it have board presence. And
I love the fact that he has Bella Core as a demon prince if one of his guys ascends, just so it gives him an excuse to put him out. So
why not?
But yeah, I have got some good quality pictures of the stuff from FaceHammer. But the Archeon on the Lumineth Shrine, double shrine thing with the Magmadroth head and the Stardrake head, and really nice. So
that's like an army. There's very little that I can pick apart about his army at this stage.
I love Max's army. It's really good.
Incredible presence. It works really well. It looks good on any table in any light. I don't know why his Black Rim doesn't come up higher around Archeon's base. I'm getting nitpicky because it looks like Archeon's in a fish tank. At the very, very bottom level, at least.
That is nitpicky.
Take it back to the very edge. You know, I'm obsessed about this stuff. But it's a phenomenal looking army. Like really, I could just stare at that for about 30 minutes.
Yeah, and he won best army.
He did. Yeah.
And then your man Will come second with the Gargants, and then
so I think
Alex came in third with his
stoked for him
his Iron Jaws, which I'm really happy about because it is a really nice army. Like I've got some pictures he posted where you can actually see like they're a bit obviously higher res and nicer than the washed out cabinet photos, so they actually look really nice. I wish that was really something that they did at the event. They had some way to like photograph the models or just have them out on a table. Probably
good idea for the company, isn't it? As well.
Yeah.
Sure, they've got plenty. Like you can have a setup for someone who isn't an amazing photographer to take amazing photos. So people like to see it. You know, it's a really nice way to compliment people for the time they put into things.
Yeah, and he painted the Rogue Idol, didn't he, and the War Chanter for the event.
He painted. Yeah, he was like.
I think he actually painted some Gore Grunters as well, or some Brutes. I can't remember.
It was the Gore Grunters or the Brutes he painted. Yeah, for sure. That was neat. A non-monster or character unit in addition. Yeah,
and you had to paint your whole army.
Mine wasn't in the cabinet.
No,
justifiably so.
No. But I thought I might sneak my way in because I had a lot of attention and I got asked my name and stuff. So I thought I might.
I think you will
sneak
have been like one too far, or like when we spoke to Neil Peckett and just said your army's gorgeous, but the other quality is so high that you were 13th, and we had space for 12 or whatever.
Yeah,
maybe you're in that position.
Probably, but I mean, like I know that the army's like. It was rushed out to table standard, like battle ready or whatever term you want to use. And if I basically go over, highlight all the skin and paint some details, and then highlight the cloth,
you and I pick the same two
upscale.
Areas.
Well, that's two areas that I'm 100% going to concentrate on. A couple edge highlights on the weapons and banner tops, and then basically it will pop really nicely. So, I mean, I'm not under any illusions. It was a speed to table job because I did it in 2 and a bit weeks, but it's like, I'm super happy with how it looks. I quite enjoy how it plays, which is good. But
it suits you.
It doesn't. The only thing that it's lacking for me is it doesn't have
I've got speed bump.
the combat punch I need. So like the thralls do work, right? They do a lot of work.
Put some dragons in.
Well,
I mean, I'm not wrong.
If I dropped one shark, buffed one thrall unit to 20, dropped the aspect to the sea and put 2 dragons in, it would fit.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing that because no.
Dragons.
What I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna get my Achillean King and get him in the list because I think he adds a lot because it allows me to do a high tide out of high tide. It allows me to have something that can charge and do a ton of damage.
He's dependable as well.
And he's also got a defensive debuff. If you're within 3, you're -1 to hit with Void Chill Darkness. And then what I can do is put the Arcane Tome on one of my heroes to give me an unbind or wizard, and I can use my heroic action to get an unbind. So I can still get 2 unbinds. I can still get a Mystic Shield. I can still take Steed of Tides if I wanted to. I would probably take something like Arcane Corrosion so I could lower armor saves because I think that's more important. And because my Soul Render would probably have it, or my Thrall Master, probably the Soul Render has got a ward. He would be more in amongst where he needs to be. It would allow me to blob up a Thrall unit into 20 as well. I'll drop a Shark. So I think basically what I end up doing is having 2 units of Reavers, 1 unit of 20 Thralls, 2 individual Sharks, a Leviathan, a King, a Thrall Master, and a Soul Render with Arcane Tome and the Emerald Life Swarm Endless spell. So turn 1, you just pop out Life Swarm, and then you just basically have that as your. Can I just keep this up to heal my shit? Basically, and it gives you so much healing. I'd be tempted to put it on the Thrall Master because like the Soul Render's a bit of a target anyway, as he's my general and he's my healing, so it might give me a little bit extra. But the Thrall Master's quite easy to kill. But then you could get a 5-up ward if he stands next to the boat, and he gets +1 armor safe from the turtle aura, so because he's infantry. So you can even be a little bit better at like splitting your boat into 2 halves and then garrisoning them with the heroes. So like, although I do like to have them outside the boat so you can do the run 3 units and you run the thralls and the 2 heroes and that's your 3 units and they kind of want to be a blob anyway. So I
did that quite a lot with mine. It was like Plague Bearers, Great Unclean One, and Spoil Pox. With like
but basically, it's good, but basically the aspect of the sea can get in the bin because he's been awful. I do have
to back stuff up with the combat punch next to it as well. It's like running the Cavalos in OBR or something. Like plus King.
But the good thing about the King is like he just does so much damage on the charge. He does mortals on the charge. He can do high tide onto the thralls outside of high tide, and he hits like a truck. And so he's just made the list. So I think he's in. So I'm quite pleased to work on that for Carnage in May. But we've got Just Play Teams this weekend. I've already submitted my list and the aspect of the seas there. So I'm going to try and play him a bit differently.
I was going to say, wouldn't it be funny if after this,
I know it would be funny.
You're like, oh, he's pretty good actually.
Yeah, it would be funny, but I'm not sure, honestly, that that's going to be a thing. But that was Warhammer Teams. So good fun, really nice to play with Pete and Alex and get to know them a lot better, and yourself, of course, but I know you very well. So, we did all right. I think for the prep we put in, I think we did fine. I think
we did very well as a team, considering.
And had a lot of fun. Gin and Slims were good, and and it's up to Just Play this weekend for 8-man teams with the Ninja Badgers. So hopefully I can improve on my performance.
We're a mercenary force these days.
We are. We just join whoever will take us. Yeah. So
we'll see. I guess post that event, you and I, like the things that I'm wobbly on, being, do I need 2 units of drones? Do I need the Lord of Afflictions? We're forced to take again. And maybe we can do a show about what we would change in our list, because I'm definite for Carnage as well, because we're both going to that. I'm looking at my list, wondering, what needs to be in it, really, and what would be better. Obviously, we're taking experience from a team event and applying it to a singles event. They're very different. But I think it's going to make for an interesting topic, just kind of us discussing the differences between.
Yeah, but I've had a singles event as well, so I've played one singles, one doubles, one team. Sorry, so
yeah,
I think for me, like definitely the Kraken tooth is going to come out because I've managed to roll 3 1s out of 5 dice on it. But what will happen at the team event is that I'll do loads of work, and I'll be like, this is definitely what I should like run. So, yeah, cool. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up. So,
any questions you got about our lists, or any suggestions for our lists, or anything else? Do pop questions and comments below. We've got some dice on the way as well. We can pop a link to that in the description.
Yeah.
And,
but there's still some of the old dice available from the merchandise. Templates still available. We can see them in some of the shots there being used, so they're quite useful for when you're playing games to make sure you don't miss objectives. It supports the show. I have finally got the Patreon gifts for people who've been subscribing, so that's coming up in June as the 1st year anniversary, so I'll be sending out some stuff to people who've been chosen tier or above, so thanks for your support.
Yeah, absolutely,
and yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do some more content on the events coming up. And sorry it's been a bit quiet over the last couple of weeks, but I've been painting an Idoneth army and I've had 2 events, so it's been a bit crazy.
3 times
yeah, which has been so it's fine. But yeah, hopefully we'll soon get to grips with the new Nighthaunt and Daughters battle tomes as well, so we'll do some battle tome reviews because talk about how the Nighthaunt are really good and how the Daughters have been nerfed. Wait, I don't know, not judging by the Arena of Shades box set, right? So
points on it. That'd be disappointing.
I'm sure Marafi can't get better, right? Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you all again soon.
See you in a bit, guys. Bye.
Bye.